Alrighty, hello and welcome to this quick video about parallel lines and what angles are created when we cut them by a transversal. So let's go ahead and look at this picture. And before I talk about anything specific, we have lines L and M here that are parallel. They'll never cross. And when we take one single line T and cross both of them, that's called a transversal. And what happens when we have parallel lines cut by a transversal is 8 angles are made. But what's interesting about these 8 angles is we really only have 2 angle measures that are created. We have an acute angle and an obtuse angle. And all of the acute angles are equal and all of the obtuse angles are equal. So for example, angle 2 is acute. If angle 2 is 60 degrees, the other acute angles are 3, 6, and 7. And all those would be equal to angle 2. And angle 1 plus angle 2, those are supplementary. So that would make angle 1 120 degrees, which would then make angles 4, 5, and 8 all 120 degrees. So here on this slide, what we're talking about is alternate interior angles. So alternate meaning on both sides of the transversal. Interior means between the transversals. And what we know is that 3 and 6 are congruent, as well as 4 and 5, because of alternate interior angles are always congruent. Here's the next slide, which is alternate exterior angles. And in this case, 1 and 8 are congruent because they're on the outside of the lines, of the parallel lines, and on the opposite sides of the transversal. So therefore, 2 is congruent to 7. And then finally, we have corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are always congruent. And what corresponding means is in the same position. So here in kind of this pink color, 1 and 5 are corresponding because they're in the same position. 3 and 7 are corresponding because they're in the same position. I like to think of this as the different, kind of like the compass. I see this as like northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest. And if I'm in the northeast position, position 2, the northeast position here is position 6. So therefore 2 is congruent to 6, and they have the same angle measure. So finally, if we have this picture here, and we know that angle 1 is 150 degrees, we can figure out all 8 of these angles. And in fact, we know that measure of angle 2 is 30 because 1 and 2 are supplementary, meaning they add to be 180. We would then know that 3 is also equal to 30 because 1 and 3 are supplementary. And then we know that 4 is 150 because 1 and 4 are vertical angles, and vertical angles are always congruent as well. And then we can go down here to 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the obtuse angles here in the bottom will be 150, and the acute angles will be equal to 30. So let's go ahead and label those. The measure of angle 5 will be 150 because it's corresponding to 1. The measure of angle 6 is alternate interior to 3. And since 3 is the 30, 6 is 30. And then 7 would be alternate exterior to 2. So that would be 30 degrees as well. And finally, 8 will be 150 degrees. The big takeaway here is that when we cut a transversal through 2 parallel lines, we create 2 angles, an obtuse angle and an acute angle. And we have different copies of that angle, and those are each equal to themselves.